had been alone in space for 3 months. His small ship moved slowly through the graveyard belt, a massive field of broken metal and dead ships floating in the darkness. This place had a different name on official maps, but everyone called it the graveyard. 3 years ago, humans and the had fought their final battle here. Thousands of ships had died in this place. Now, people like came to pick through the remains. He was a salvage pilot. He found valuable things in the wreckage and sold them to survive. It was lonely work but did not mind being alone. He had grown up in the crowded cities of Earth, and the silence of space felt like peace to him. His ship was old but reliable. He had named it Quiet Dream because that was what space felt like to him. On the 93rd day of his salvage run, his sensors detected something strange. A small ship was tumbling through the debris field, spinning out of control. Looked at the readings twice because he did not believe them. The ship was not human. It was not either. The design was something he had never seen before. It was beautiful, made of something that looked like crystal, catching the distant starlight as it spun. But it was also burning. Flames of strange colors leaked from holes in its side. Knew he should ignore it. Unknown ships meant unknown problems. He was just a salvage pilot. He had no weapons worth mentioning and no backup coming to help him. The smart thing was to fly away and forget what he had seen. But the ship was burning. Someone might still be alive inside. He cursed quietly and turned his ship toward the wreck. Getting close was dangerous. The crystal ship was spinning fast and debris floated everywhere. Spent 20 minutes carefully matching its rotation, bringing Quiet Dream alongside like a dancer matching her partner's steps. When he was close enough, he put on his suit and crossed over. The crystal was warm under his gloves. He found an airlock and forced it open with tools he had used 1,000 times on dead ships. The inside was dark and filled with smoke that glowed faintly purple. Emergency lights flickered in patterns he did not understand. He found bodies first, 4 of them wearing armor that looked like it was grown rather than made. They were tall and thin with pale skin that had a slight blue color. Their hair was silver and their eyes, still open in death, were solid gold with no white part at all. They had died fighting. Burn marks covered the walls around them. Guards thought they died protecting something. He moved deeper into the ship. The smoke grew thicker. He almost missed her in the darkness. She was young, or at least she looked young. Her skin was pale violet, lighter than the guards, and her silver hair spread around her like water. She wore robes instead of armor, and those robes were now soaked with glowing blue blood. Her eyes were closed. A deep wound crossed her chest. Checked for a pulse. He did not know where her heart was or if she even had one, but he pressed his fingers to her neck anyway. Something beat under his touch, weak and slow, but there. She was alive. He carried her back to his ship. She weighed almost nothing, like her bones were hollow. He laid her on his medical bed, which was really just a cot with some basic supplies nearby. He looked at her wound and felt fear for the first time. He was not a doctor. He knew how to treat human injuries, but she was not human. But blood was blood. Wounds were wounds. The body wanted to live, no matter what species it belonged to. Worked through the night. He cleaned the wound as best he could. He used human medicine to stop the bleeding, hoping it would not poison her. He sealed the wound with medical glue meant for human skin. He gave her water, tiny drops at a time, watching to see if she could swallow. The first day, her fever burned so hot that he worried his thermometer was broken. The second day, she stopped breathing twice, and both times pressed on her chest until she started again. The third day, she finally opened her eyes. Those eyes were gold, like the guards, but brighter. They focused on his face with difficulty, like she was looking at him from very far away. "You are human." Her voice was weak, but the words were clear. Some kind of translator was working. Did not look up from the wound he was checking. "Yeah, and you are alive. You are welcome." She tried to sit up and immediately fell back with a sound of pain. Gently pushed her shoulder down. "Do not move. Your wound is bad. You almost died twice last night. My guards, dead, all four of them. I am sorry. She closed her eyes. For a moment, thought she had fallen unconscious again, but then he saw tears running down her violet cheeks. The tears glowed faintly, like her blood. What is your name? She asked finally. I am Princess of the Empire. Stopped working on her bandage. He looked at her face for the first time, really looked. A princess. He had saved a princess from some alien empire he had never heard of. This was exactly the kind of trouble he had wanted to avoid. A princess, he said flatly. You sound unhappy. I am a salvage pilot. I pick through garbage for a living. I do not know anything about princesses or empires. And yet you saved me. His golden eyes studied his face. Why, you did not know who I was. Went back to fixing her bandage. He did not know how to answer that question. He had asked himself the same thing many times over the past 3 days. He was not a hero. He was not particularly brave. He just picked through wreckage to survive. Your ship was burning, he said finally. Someone was inside, that is all. That is all, repeated softly. Among my people we would call that simple kindness. It is rarer than you might think. She slept after that, sat in his pilot chair and looked out at the stars. He had been alone for 3 months, and now he had an alien princess bleeding on his medical cot. He had no idea what to do next. He did not know where her people were or how to contact them. He did not know who had attacked her or if they were still looking for her. But she was alive. He had kept her alive with human medicine and human stubbornness. That was something. Outside the window, the graveyard belt turned slowly in the darkness. Thousands of dead ships from a war humanity had barely won. 3 years ago, humans had faced extinction. They had fought with everything they had, and they had survived. Looked back at the sleeping princess. Whatever happened next, he would figure it out. Humans were good at surviving. It was the one thing they did better than anyone else. He set his ship to drift and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he would ask how to take her home. Tonight, he would rest. He had a feeling he would need his strength for whatever came next. In her sleep, murmured something in a language his translator could not understand. Her hand moved slightly, reaching for something that was not there, pulled his blanket from his chair and laid it gently over her. Sleep, he said quietly, you are safe now. It was a promise he was not sure he could keep, but he made it anyway. That was what humans did. They made promises and then they fought to keep them. The stars turned slowly outside, and the quiet dream drifted through the wreckage of an old war, carrying 2 strangers toward a future neither of them could see. Healed slowly. Human medicine was not perfect for her body, but it was good enough. After 1 week she could sit up. After 2 weeks she could walk short distances. During this time she talked. He learned that the Empire was old, very old. They had traveled between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. They lived for thousands of years, and their empire covered hundreds of worlds. They had watched humanity's war against them from a distance, curious but not involved. They did not interfere in the fights of younger species. But someone interfered with you, said. They were eating together in his small kitchen. Could not eat human food, but she had found some emergency supplies in her ruined ship that had salvaged. Someone tried to kill you. His golden eyes grew dark. Yes, someone did. Do you know who? I have ideas, nothing certain. She looked down at her food. I am the Queen's 7th daughter. In the politics of my people, that makes me unimportant. I have no real power. I have no claim to the throne. I am, how do you say it, decoration. Then why kill you? Because I talk too much. A small smile crossed her face. I have spoken publicly about humans. I said your people were interesting. I said we should talk to you, learn about you. Some people in my empire did not like hearing that. Understood. Politics was the same everywhere. Someone had decided that a princess who liked humans was a problem that needed to disappear. "I need to take you home," he said. "Your mother must be worried." "My mother is the queen. She does not worry, she plans," pushed her food away. "But yes, I need to return. The question is how to get there safely." His plan was simple. He would take her to the nearest outpost, drop her off, and disappear before anyone asked too many questions. He was just a salvage pilot. He did not belong in alien politics. Refused. "The attack was planned carefully," she said. "My attackers knew my route. They knew when my guards would change shifts. Someone inside my empire gave them this information. I cannot trust any outpost. I cannot trust any escort my people might send." "You trust me. You saved my life. You had nothing to gain from it. You are the only person in this entire galaxy I can trust right now." Did not like this. He liked it even less when told him how far away her was. The journey to Prime would take 2 weeks through space lanes he had never traveled. "I am not a soldier," he said. "I cannot protect you. You already have." "That was luck." "Maybe," met his eyes. "Or maybe you are stronger than you know." They left the graveyard belt the next morning. Quiet Dream was not fast, but it was small and hard to detect. Kept to the edges of main travel routes, avoiding other ships whenever possible. Spent most of her time resting, but when she felt strong enough, she sat with him in the cockpit and watched the stars go by. She asked him many questions about humans. She wanted to know about Earth, about their history, about how they had defeated the answered as best he could. He was not a teacher or a historian. He was just a man who had grown up poor and found a way to survive in space. "Your people live such short lives," said one evening. They were passing through a beautiful nebula, clouds of colored gas glowing all around them. 100 years at most. That is like a single breath to us. Does that make us less important? No, it makes you confusing. She turned to look at him. When you have thousands of years, you think carefully before acting, you plan, you wait, you consider all possibilities, but humans, you act, you fight, you love, you do everything like you are running out of time. Because we are. Yes, and that is what confuses us. You should be weak, you should be easy to defeat. You are small and fragile and you die so quickly, but you are not weak. You defeated the when no one thought you could, you survive everything. She paused. My people have studied many species. We have never seen anything like humans. Did not know what to say to that. He had never thought of humans as special. They were just people trying to live, same as everyone else. We do not have a choice, he said finally. We cannot wait 100 years to make decisions. We cannot plan for 1,000 years into the future. We only have now. So we do what we can with the time we have. Was quiet for a long moment. I think that is beautiful, she said softly. They traveled for 12 days without trouble. On the 13th day, their luck ran out. The ship appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly in front of them. It was 5 times the size of Quiet Dream, and its weapons were already powered. Screens filled with warnings. "They found us," whispered. His hands moved without thought. He had survived the war. He had flown through battlefields where death came from every direction. His body remembered what to do even when his mind was full of fear. He threw Quiet Dream into a tight spin, avoiding the first shot by centimeters. The enemy ship turned to follow. "Hold on," said. He flew toward the nebula they had just passed. The gas clouds were thick here, full of radiation and charged particles. Sensors would not work well inside. It was dangerous, but the enemy ship was faster. They could not run in open space. The chase lasted 2 hours. Used every trick he knew. He flew between gas clouds that would burn their sensors. He hid in the shadow of dead asteroids. He turned off all power and drifted like wreckage, hoping they would pass by. The enemy ship was persistent, but was stubborn. And stubbornness was something humans were very good at. Finally, the enemy gave up. They had other priorities, perhaps, or they decided the risk was too high. watched them jump back to faster than light and disappear. He let out a breath he had been holding for what felt like hours. "They are gone," he said. Was shaking. Her violet skin had gone pale, almost white, but she was alive. They were both alive. "You saved me again," she said. "Do not get used to it." But she smiled, and something in his chest felt warm in a way he did not expect. They reached Prime 2 days later, had never seen anything like it. The planet was covered in structures that looked like they were grown from crystal, towers and bridges and floating platforms that caught the light of their blue sun. Ships moved everywhere, hundreds of them, in patterns too complex to follow. And then the escort arrived. 12 warships surrounded Quiet Dream the moment they entered the system. Soldiers in crystal armor appeared on his screens, weapons pointed at his ship. "You will follow us," a cold voice said. "Do not resist." "Looked at, so much for dropping you off and leaving." She looked afraid, but she tried to hide it. "My mother wants to meet you. That is complicated." "How complicated?" "You might not be allowed to leave." Stared at her. The warships moved closer, their weapons humming with power. He thought about running, but there was nowhere to go. He thought about fighting, but he had no weapons. So he did the only thing he could do. He followed. The queen was waiting. The throne room was made of living crystal. It grew from the floor and reached toward a ceiling so high that clouds drifted beneath it. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the space with a soft glow that made everything look like a dream. Had seen many things in his life, but nothing like this. He walked between 2 lines of guards in crystal armor, walked beside him, but she had changed since they landed. She stood now. Her face showed no emotion. She was a princess again, not the wounded woman he had saved in his small ship. At the end of the room sat the queen. Was old. Could feel it the moment he saw her. She looked young, her face smooth and her silver hair falling like water to the floor, but her eyes held thousands of years. They were gold-like but deeper, like looking into an ocean that had no bottom. She sat on a throne that seemed to grow from the floor itself, and the air around her felt heavy, like the pressure before a storm. "Come closer, human," she said. Her voice was soft, but it filled the entire room. Walked forward. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching him. The court had gathered to see this strange creature their princess had brought home. He heard whispers in languages he could not understand. He stopped 10 steps from the throne and waited. "You are the one who saved my daughter," the queen said. "Yes." "You kept her alive for 3 days with nothing but human medicine." "Yes." "You flew her across half the galaxy in a ship held together by rust and hope." Almost smiled. Quiet Dream is a good ship. Silence fell over the court. No one spoke to the queen like that, but his lips curved slightly upward. "My daughter tells me you refused payment. You refused reward. You wanted only to leave." "I am a salvage pilot. I do not belong in palaces." "And yet here you are." The queen leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, human, why did you save her? You did not know who she was. You had nothing to gain. Why risk your life for a stranger?" Thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "Her ship was burning," he said finally. "Someone was inside. I could not just fly away." "Could you not?" "No." The queen studied him for a long moment. Her golden eyes seemed to see through his skin and into his thoughts, met her gaze without looking away. He had nothing to hide. "Humans are fascinating creatures," said slowly. "You burn so briefly, 100 years and then you are gone like sparks from a fire. We have watched your species for a long time. We saw you crawl from your world and reach for the stars. We saw you fight the when you should have died. And now I see you standing in my court looking at me without fear." She paused. "You should be afraid." "Should I?" "I could kill you with a thought. I could have you locked in a prison where you would never see stars again. I could do many things to you, human." "You could," agreed, "but you will not." "Oh, why not?" Because your daughter trusts me, and you want to know why." The silence that followed was complete. Even the whispers stopped, felt the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on him. He had either said exactly the right thing or exactly the wrong thing. Then the queen laughed. It was a real laugh, full of surprise and something that might have been delight. The court stirred nervously. The queen did not laugh. "Human," said, still smiling, "you will remain here." It was not a question. It was not a request. It was an order from the ruler of an empire that had existed before humans had learned to write. "For how long?" asked. "Until I understand you." They gave him rooms in the palace. Not cells, but actual rooms with windows looking out over the crystal city. He had a bed softer than anything he had ever slept on. He had food brought to him 3 times a day, though most of it he could not eat. He had everything he could want except freedom. High Commander came to see him on the first day. He was tall, even for a, and his golden eyes were cold. "You should not be here," said. "I agree. Tell your queen to let me go." "The queen has spoken. I will not question her decision." His hand rested on his sword. "But I will be watching you, human. Your kind is dangerous. You fight without honor. You die without dignity. You are animals wearing the shape of civilized beings." Had heard similar things before. Some people looked at humans and saw only their short lives, their violent history, their desperate struggle to survive. They did not see what those things had made humans become. "I am not your enemy," said calmly. "All humans are enemies. You just do not know it yet." Left, sat by his window and watched the alien sun set over the crystal towers. He wondered if he would ever see Earth again. Princess came to see him the next morning. She looked better than she had since he saved her. Her wound had been properly treated by doctors, and color had returned to her violet skin. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not know my mother would do this." "Is this normal? Keeping people prisoner because you find them interesting?" "You are not a prisoner. You are a guest. Guests can leave." Looked away. "My mother is curious about you. That is rare. She has lived for 6,000 years. Very little surprises her anymore, but you surprised her." "Lucky me." "I will talk to her. I will try to make her understand." Paused. "In the meantime, let me show you my world. If you must stay, you should at least see what you are staying for." Over the following weeks, became his guide. She showed him gardens that floated in zero gravity, where flowers bloomed in colors human eyes could barely see. She showed him libraries that held the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations, some of which had died before humans existed. She showed him the training grounds where warriors practiced combat forms that looked more like dancing than fighting. Watched the warriors train and felt something strange. Their movements were beautiful, flowing like water from one form to the next, but they were slow. They telegraphed every strike. They waited too long between attacks. "Your soldiers are very graceful," he told. "But they would not last 1 minute against a human soldier." Looked at him with surprise. "That is a bold claim. Our warriors train for centuries. And humans train for years, but we train to survive, not to be beautiful. War is not a dance. War is ugly and fast and brutal. The one who hesitates dies. The one who waits for the perfect moment finds that the moment never comes." Shook his head. "Your warriors are artists. Human warriors are killers. There is a difference." She was quiet for a long moment. "Is that how humans won the war? By being killers?" "We won because we refused to die. They had better ships, better weapons, more soldiers. They should have crushed us in the first month, but we kept fighting. Every time they knocked us down, we got back up. We lost billions of people, but we never stopped." Looked at the training warriors. "We fight like we have nothing to lose, because usually we do not." That night dreamed of Earth. He dreamed of the cities burning under bombardment. He dreamed of the desperate last stand at Mars, when humanity had thrown everything they had at an enemy that seemed unstoppable. He dreamed of the faces of friends who had died in the war, their names already fading from his memory. He woke up with tears on his face and did not know why. The Queen called for him again 1 week later. This time, they met alone in a small garden filled with flowers that sang in frequencies humans could not hear. "You are not what I expected," said. "What did you expect?" "A warrior, a killer, someone dangerous." She studied him. "But you are just a man who was alone in space and found a burning ship." "I am sorry to disappoint you." "You do not disappoint me." The Queen picked a flower that glowed softly blue. "You confuse me, and I am never confused." Said nothing. He had learned that the Queen preferred silence to empty words. "Someone tried to kill my daughter," said. "Someone inside my own empire. They have tried twice now. I believe they will try again." "Then let me take her away. I can keep her safe." "You, one human with a broken ship." "I have done it before." The Queen looked at him for a long time. Something changed in her golden eyes, something that might have been respect. "Perhaps you have," she said softly. "Perhaps you have." The Festival of 3 Moons happened once every 40 years. On this night, the 3 moons of Prime aligned perfectly, and their combined light turned the crystal city into a sea of silver and gold. Every citizen celebrated. Every noble attended the great gathering in the royal plaza. Music filled the air, strange and beautiful melodies that seemed to come from the moons themselves. Did not want to go. He had spent 2 months in the palace now, and he still felt like a stranger, but asked him to come, and he could not say no to her. He wore clothes they had made for him, fabric that shifted colors when he moved. He felt ridiculous, but smiled when she saw him, and that made the discomfort worth it. "You look almost like one of us," she said. "I will never look like one of you." "No, you will always look like you, and that is enough." They walked together through the plaza. Thousands of filled the space, their silver hair catching the moonlight. They danced and laughed and drank wine that glowed like liquid stars. To them, this was a night of joy. It was a security nightmare. He could not stop watching the crowd. His eyes moved from face to face looking for threats. This was something he had learned during the war. Happy crowds were dangerous crowds. People stopped watching. People let their guards down. And that was when enemies struck. "You look worried," said. "I am always worried. It keeps me alive." "Tonight is safe. There are guards everywhere. My mother's best warriors are watching over us." Looked at the guards. They stood at their posts, beautiful and still like statues made of crystal. Their eyes looked outward, scanning the crowd. None of them were watching the servers. Had noticed the servers early. They moved through the crowd carrying trays of food and drink. They wore simple clothes and kept their eyes down. They were invisible, the way servants always were to people with power. But 3 of them moved wrong. It was subtle. Their steps were too even, too controlled. They did not look at the nobles they served. They did not react to the music or the laughter. They moved with purpose, and their paths were slowly converging on one point. On. Did not think. Thinking was too slow. His body moved before his mind caught up, pushing behind a pillar of crystal. The first energy bolt burned through the air where her head had been a moment before. Screams filled the plaza. The crowd scattered like frightened birds. The 3 servers threw off their trays, revealing weapons hidden beneath. They fired again and again, but was already moving, pulling through the chaos. "Stay down," he shouted. A guard ran toward them, sword raised. An energy bolt caught him in the chest and he fell. Grabbed the fallen sword without stopping. It was a ceremonial weapon, meant for beauty rather than killing. But a blade was a blade. One of the assassins came at them through the crowd. He was fast, faster than a human, his movements fluid and precise. He raised his weapon. Threw the sword. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest. They did not have natural weapons like claws or fangs. But millions of years ago, human ancestors had learned to throw stones at predators. That simple ability had changed everything. A human arm could throw an object with more accuracy and power than almost any other species in the galaxy. The sword spun through the air and buried itself in the assassin's throat. The man fell, did not stop to watch. He grabbed another weapon from the ground, a soldier's blade this time, and turned to face the remaining attackers. They came at him together. Twin bolts of energy screamed toward his chest, threw himself sideways, rolling across the crystal floor. He came up running, closing the distance before they could fire again. The first assassin swung a blade at his head, ducked under it and drove his sword into the man's stomach. The assassin gasped and fell. The second one aimed at again. Did not have time to reach her. He did not have time to think. He did the only thing he could do. He threw his body between the princess and the weapon. The energy bolt hit his side like a hammer made of fire. Pain exploded through him, worse than anything he had ever felt. He heard scream his name. He saw the assassin raising his weapon for another shot. Then High Commander was there, his blade singing through the air. The last assassin died before he could fire again. Lay on the crystal floor, blood pooling beneath him. The moonlight above looked very far away. He could hear voices, but they seemed to come from another world. His face appeared above him. Her golden eyes were full of tears. "Stay awake," she said. "Do not close your eyes, please, please stay awake." He wanted to tell her that he was fine. He wanted to make a joke about how this was the second time he had saved her life. But the words would not come. Everything was getting dark. He closed his eyes. He woke up in a medical chamber that hummed with strange energy. Doctors moved around him, their hands glowing as they worked on his wound. The pain was still there, but it was distant now, like it belonged to someone else. Sat beside his bed. She had not changed her clothes. They were still stained with his blood. "You are awake," she said, her voice cracked. "How long?" 3 days. The weapon damaged your internal organs. Human bodies are." She stopped and wiped her eyes. "You should have died." "But I did not." "No, you did not." She took his hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin. "Why did you do it? Why did you jump in front of that weapon?" Thought about the question. He remembered seeing the assassin aim at. He remembered knowing that he could not stop the shot. He remembered making a choice without choosing, his body moving before his mind could catch up. "I do not know," he said honestly. "I just did." "You could have died for me. You almost did die for me." "Yes." "But why? I am not your princess. I am not your people. Why would you give your life for me?" Looked at her face. He saw the fear there, the confusion, the desperate need to understand. He saw something else too, something that looked like hope. "Because you are someone I saved," he said. "That makes you my responsibility." Stared at him, then she lowered her head and cried. High Commander came to see him later that day. The tall warrior stood at the foot of his bed, his face unreadable. "You killed 3 assassins," said. "You took a wound that should have killed you. You saved the princess's life a 3rd time." "I was lucky." "No," shook his head slowly. "I watched you move. You saw the threat before any of my guards. You acted before they could even understand what was happening. That was not luck. That was something else." "What?" "I do not know, but I was wrong about you, human. You are not an animal. You are." He paused, searching for the right word. "You are a survivor like us." It was not an apology, but from it was close. Queen came to see him the next day. She sat beside his bed where it sat, her ancient eyes studying his face. "You could have escaped during the chaos," she said. "You could have taken a ship and left. No one would have stopped you." "Was in danger." "She is not your princess." "No, she is not," met the queen's eyes. "But she is someone I kept alive. She is someone who trusted me when she had no reason to. She is." He paused. "She is my friend." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she did something had never seen her do. She smiled. "My people live for thousands of years," said softly. "We have time to think, to plan, to wait. We do not rush into danger. We do not throw ourselves in front of weapons. We do not form bonds with strangers we met by chance in the darkness of space." She leaned forward. "But perhaps that is our weakness. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to act without thinking, to love without reason, to sacrifice without hesitation." "Your Majesty, you have shown me something I had forgotten, human. You have shown me what it means to burn brightly, even if you burn briefly." She stood. "When you are healed, come to me. We have much to discuss about the future." She left, lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Through the window, the 3 moons of Prime hung in the sky, their alignment already beginning to fade. The festival was over, but something new had begun. The investigation took 3 months. Lady, the Queen's chief advisor, led a team of intelligence agents through the shadows of the Empire. They followed money and secrets. They listened to whispers and lies. Slowly, piece by piece, they uncovered the truth. 3 noble houses had betrayed the Empire. They had made a secret deal with the remains of the fleet. The survivors of the war humanity had won. These wanted revenge. They wanted to start the war again, and they had found allies among who believed humanity should have been destroyed. Princess had spoken publicly in favor of humans. She had called them interesting, worthy of contact and friendship. For that crime, she had been marked for death. The traitors were arrested on a cold morning when the blue sun barely rose above the crystal towers. Their trials were short. Their executions were quick. The Queen showed no mercy to those who had threatened her daughter. But the remained. They hid in the dark spaces between stars, planning their next attack. They were not many, but they were desperate, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. The fleet searched for them but found only shadows. Queen called a meeting of her advisors, was invited. He walked into the war room feeling out of place among the ancient nobles and powerful commanders. High Commander nodded to him. Lady watched him with curious eyes, stood near her mother, her face serious. "The hide from us," the Queen said. "They know our ships, they know our patterns, they know how we hunt. We need to try something different." "What do you suggest, Your Majesty?" Lady asked. "We contact the humans." Silence filled the room. Several nobles looked shocked, others looked angry. Humans, working with it had never been done. "The humans fought continued. "They know their tactics, they know their hiding places, they know how to find enemies who do not want to be found." "Your Majesty," one of the nobles said carefully, "the humans are a young species, they are not reliable. They won a war everyone thought they would lose, they are more reliable than most." The Queen looked at. "What do you think, human? Would your people help us hunt the—" Thought about it. Humanity was still rebuilding from the war. They had lost so much. But they were a threat to everyone, and an alliance with the Empire would change everything for his people. "They would help," he said, "but they would want something in return." "What?" "Recognition, respect, a seat at the table when decisions are made." He met the Queen's eyes. "Humans are tired of being treated like children by older species. We have earned our place among the stars. We want others to acknowledge that." Some of the nobles made sounds of disgust, but the Queen only nodded. "Fair," she said. "Make the contact, let us see what happens." What happened was history. The first joint military operation between humans and the took place 6 weeks later. A combined fleet of human battleships and crystal carriers jumped into a remote system where intelligence said they were hiding. The battle was short and brutal. Human ships fought like humans always fought, aggressive and unpredictable, throwing themselves into danger without hesitation. Ships provided support, their ancient weapons striking with precision from distance. Together, they destroyed the remnants in less than 4 hours. It was the beginning of something new. Over the following months, more operations followed. Human and commanders learned to work together. They shared information. They developed combined tactics. Slowly, the two species began to understand each other. Watched it all happen from the palace. He attended meetings. He offered advice. He served as a bridge between two peoples who had never spoken before. It was strange work for a salvage pilot, but he found that he did not mind. Helped him. She translated customs and explained politics. She stood beside him when the nobles looked at him with suspicion. She was his guide, just as she had been since the beginning. One evening, they sat together in the zero-gravity gardens. The flowers floated around them, glowing softly in colors that had no names in human languages. The silence was comfortable, the kind of silence shared by people who did not need words. "The Queen has offered you a ship," said finally. "A new one better than Quiet Dream. She says you can leave whenever you want. The debt is paid. You are free." Had received the offer that morning. A scout ship, small but fast, with technology far beyond anything humans had built. It was more than he had ever dreamed of owning. With a ship like that, he could salvage anything. He could go anywhere. "I know," he said. "Will you take it?" He looked at her. In the soft light of the floating flowers, her violet skin seemed to glow. Her golden eyes were watching him, waiting for his answer. "I do not know," he admitted. "What is holding you here? Your home is far away. Your people are rebuilding. You have done enough for us." "Have I?" "You saved my life. 3 times you killed for me. You almost died for me. You helped build an alliance that will change the galaxy." His voice was quiet. "What more could you possibly give?" Thought about the question. He thought about Earth, about the crowded cities and polluted skies he had left behind. He thought about the graveyard belt, about the silence of space and the loneliness of salvage work. He thought about Quiet Dream, his old ship that had carried him so far. Then he thought about her smile when she showed him the gardens, about her tears when she thought he was dying, about the way she said his name like it was something precious. "You call me your friend," he said. "I did. Is that still true?" Was quiet for a moment. Then she floated closer to him until they were almost touching. "Among my people," she said softly, "we do not use the word friend lightly. We live for thousands of years. We have time to be careful with our hearts. When we choose someone, we choose them forever." Forever is a long time. "Yes, it is." She reached out and took his hand. "But you taught me something. You taught me that sometimes you do not have time to be careful. Sometimes you have to act without thinking. Sometimes you have to choose without knowing if the choice is right." He looked at their hands, her pale violet fingers wrapped around his darker human skin. Two species who had never spoken before, holding onto each other in a garden of floating light. "I could stay," he said. "You could. Your people might not like it, a human in the palace forever." "They will learn," smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "My mother was right about you. You are confusing. You are impossible. You are a spark that refuses to go out." She squeezed his hand. "But you are also kind and loyal and brave, and those things are worth more than all the years of all the species in the galaxy." Thought about leaving. He thought about taking the ship and flying away back to the life he had known before. It would be easier. It would be safer. But humans did not choose easy. Humans did not choose safe. Humans chose to fight when they should have run. They chose to love when they should have been careful. They chose to stay when everyone expected them to leave. "Then I will stay," he said. Queen found them in the garden an hour later. She stood at the entrance and watched her daughter and the human floating among the flowers, speaking quietly, their hands intertwined. Lady stood beside her. "You told him he could leave." "I did." "He has not left." "No," the Queen smiled, that rare expression that so few ever saw. "It seems he has decided to stay." In the years that followed, the alliance between humanity and the Empire grew stronger. Trade routes opened. Knowledge was shared. Human colonies appeared in space, and ambassadors walked the streets of Earth. Two species who had been strangers became partners, then friends, then family. Historians would write about the politics behind the alliance. They would analyze the economics, the military strategy, the careful negotiations. They would fill books with explanations of why two such different peoples had come together. But those who knew the truth understood something simpler. It had started with a salvage pilot who found a burning ship and could not fly away. It had grown in the small moments between strangers becoming friends. It had been sealed when a human threw himself in front of a weapon to save a princess who was not his to save. Never became a king or a general or a diplomat. He remained what he had always been, a simple man who refused to give up. But his story spread across the galaxy, told and retold until it became legend. The human who saved the princess, the spark who would not go out, the man who stayed when he could have left and in staying changed everything. That was what humans offered the galaxy, not just technology or weapons or tactics. They offered something rarer and more precious. They offered the fierce, burning loyalty of creatures who knew their time was short and chose to spend it protecting others anyway. And in the Crystal Palace of Prime, surrounded by a people who had existed for, one human had proven that sometimes the lights are the ones that burn the briefest. But that did not make them any less worth watching. The stars turned slowly outside the window and sat together watching the light of a dozen distant suns. Neither spoke, neither needed to. Some things were understood without words. Some bonds needed no explanation. He had saved her, she had changed him, and together they had changed the galaxy. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.